of the rim. Gardner on the slam. Oh, using Curry way downtown. Oh, what a shot from Curry!
Before the Kobe Bryant we knew went away for good, he reminded us one more time why we called him Black Mamba in an all-out effort that it seems not many people remember. When his name is brought up, rarely do you ever hear the word underrated. As a matter of fact, you mostly hear overrated because he has so many haters even in retirement, but that does nothing but show how great he truly was. However, I think this 1 year in Kobe's career is actually extremely underrated because there was so much negativity surrounding the season, and that's why I wanted to highlight it today. It truly is one of the all-time great seasons that nobody seems to remember. What's up NBA fans, Dom2K on the mic, and the 2012-2013 season is still fresh in our minds because it hasn't been that long. The NBA may look very different, but it will forever stand out to us as the last year that we saw the real Kobe Bryant. It'll also stand out for housing the Lakers super team experiment that failed so miserably. But that failure also plays a part in why, in my opinion, this season was Bryant's most underrated campaign ever, and that's saying a lot considering he won a championship with an injured knee and a broken finger. So let's start at the beginning. The 2013 campaign was supposed to be another glory year for the Lakers. After 3 straight trips to the finals from 08 to 2010, it had finally seemed like the duo of Gasol and Kobe had run its course. They were brutally swept out of the 2011 playoffs by the eventual champion Dallas Mavericks, and in 2012, they were run out of the building by the budding Thunder in a gentleman's sweep. Although Kobe was still dominant, it was clearly time to retool LA if he was to collect his 6th ring by the end of his career. And so enter Steve Nash and Dwight Howard in a miracle offseason for the Lakers, or so it seemed at the time. Nash was still averaging double-digit assists on a team with no significant talent, and Howard was only 1 year removed from finishing second in MVP voting and his last Defensive Player of the Year award. Most of us were asking, how could this go wrong? Well, in my opinion, there was only one way for this to actually go wrong, and it was injuries, which is exactly what ended up happening. Nash almost immediately broke his leg, causing him to age 100 years in just a few months, and Dwight Howard rushed back from his back surgery to be a part of this awesome roster, which resulted in him being only a shell of his former self. It also didn't help when he ended up tearing his labrum later on. Sure, he was still good defensively, but he was nothing like the Orlando Dwight Howard. So right off the bat, Kobe was dealing with the Lakers team that would never gel in chemistry because players were in and out of the lineup or not physically where they were expected to be at the start of the season. This only got worse when Pau Gasol later injured his foot, causing him to miss a chunk of time, and he wasn't as effective this season anyways because he was struggling to find a place in the offense. Normally it was Kobe playing through an assortment of injuries, but this season he'd have to go all out and carry the hampered, dysfunctional Lakers squad to the playoffs. So let's discuss the facts of that season. First off, Kobe statistically had what you could argue to be the best season of his 30s. Keep in mind, he was 34 years old here, and he put up averages of 27.3 points, 6 assists, 5.6 rebounds, shot 46%, played 38 minutes a game, and bolstered a 32% usage rating. The 32% usage rating is the 7th highest in NBA history by any player over the age of 34 years old. And just so we're clear here, Michael Jordan and Kobe Bryant hold 4 of the remaining 6 spots that fit this criteria. The 3,013 minutes he played were the most minutes he played since he was 29 years old. For that season, he ranked 4th in minutes played, he was one of only 5 players to reach the 3,000 minute mark, and if you really want to blow your mind, he was the only player above 30 years old to rank in the top 32 for minutes played that season. The closest player to him in age was a 31-year-old Joe Johnson who played 2,642 minutes. It's hard to put into words what an effort this was by Kobe to average those type of numbers with those amount of minutes at that age on an already heavily injured body that had taken a beating throughout his career. Speaking of numbers, Kobe's 27.3 points a game were amazing for a few reasons. First, that average put him in the top 3 scorers that year, right behind the young Kevin Durant and Carmelo Anthony. Long criticized for being an inefficient shot chucker, Kobe's 46% shooting ranked up there with the highest percentages he'd ever shot, as his highest was a 46.9. And just to cap it all off, there's only 2 other players that have ever averaged more points at age 34 or older than Kobe Bryant. That would be Michael Jordan in 1998 and Bernard King in 91. As you might have guessed, putting up that type of scoring average meant he exploded more than a few times. For that season, he scored 30 plus points in 35 games out of the 78 he played. If that's not enough to impress you, he also tallied 8 40-point games throughout the campaign. And just to emphasize the significance here, throughout the NBA's entire history, there are only 83 games in which a player aged 34 or older scored more than 40 points. Kobe has 8 of those games to himself in this one season. Perhaps the most impressive thing aside from his old age is that Kobe produced this way out of pure necessity for his team's success. Nash missing 32 games and just no longer being that good in general was huge because he was the only other player on the roster aside from Kobe that was meant to handle the ball to create offense. In his absence, he was replaced by a combination of Darius Morris, Steve Blake, and Chris Duhon. This basically put Kobe in a position where he had to say forget everybody else at times so he could do it himself because that was the only way they were going to win. If you were watching that season, that's really what stuck out. Watching a 34-year-old Kobe in his 17th season still be able to just put the Lakers on his back when he decided they weren't going to lose the game. How many players at that age do you know that could do that? A night that immediately comes to mind is his classic clutch performance against the Toronto Raptors. Down by 5 with around 2 minutes left, the Lakers were struggling to close the gap, and this was pretty late in the season where every win was important to LA's playoff hopes. You could see the moment where Kobe just pretty much decided they could not lose this game, and he went on to hit 3 impossible clutch shots in a row with Raptor defenders all over him. And if my opinion means anything to you, I don't think there's another player in history that could hit these specific shots consecutively in crunch time. That was a game that saw him finish with 41 points, 12 assists, and 6 rebounds, and he clocked 43 minutes in that game. This performance should give you chills when you realize it took place just 2 nights after he bailed the Lakers out in New Orleans. The Lakers were trailing the Hornets 61-38 in the second quarter, and the biggest lead would be 25 as LA just kinda seemed dead by this point in the season because they were already disappointing to everyone. They were a 500 team, but that didn't mean Kobe was done fighting. He would go on to lead a massive comeback, practically pulling the Lakers out of the mud, scoring 42 points, dishing 12 assists, and grabbing 7 rebounds while clocking the most minutes of anybody in the game at 42. The image I'll never be able to get out of my head from this game was Kobe yelling after breaking free of the Hornets defense to streak down court for the game-sealing dunk, this coming right after he hit the fadeaway to take the lead. It was pretty much the signature image that summed up the season he was having, the passion he was showing, and the way he was putting the Lakers on his back. But the signature game for that season? Kobe's all-out performance against the Blazers in a must-win nearing the end of the season. What you might have forgotten by now is that the Lakers were just barely a playoff team in 2013. Even by April 10th, they still hadn't locked up a spot and would need to win every game they could to have a chance. How did Kobe respond? Well, with one of his greatest games ever, of course. Kobe would absolutely torch Portland for 47 points, 8 rebounds, 5 assists, 4 blocks, and 3 steals while shooting 51% from the field. Not only was this one of the greatest performances by any player ever, but he played all 48 minutes that game. Age 34, his 77th game of the season, and an all-around elite performance without 1 minute to take a breather. You know what else made this performance so damn special? Not even a month before this Blazers game, Kobe had suffered a severely sprained ankle against the Hawks while attempting the game-tying shot. If my memory serves me correctly, that injury kept him on the ground for minutes, and he later tweeted out a picture of his ankle after it had swollen up to the size of a golf ball. But if you know Kobe, you know that wasn't enough to stop him. He miraculously attempted to play in Indiana just 2 nights later on the badly sprained ankle. Of course, at that point, it was proven that he was human, as he had to leave the game after 12 minutes of play, but the fact that he even attempted to be on the court for his team through that kind of pain is incredible in itself. Maybe even more incredible than that is that he only missed 2 full games with the injury. Are you starting to see yet why I've called this season underrated? In all honesty, if the Lakers' record wasn't so poor, he would have been a shoo-in for MVP hands down, cause there's no telling how many games that Lakers team wins without him under those same circumstances. And sadly, I know exactly why this season was underrated. It's because what happened just 2 nights after his Portland performance would suck all the air out of the NBA world. April 12th was the night the Lakers would face Golden State at home. They were 42-37 and still had yet to lock up a playoff spot with only 2 games left in the regular season. As you might expect, Kobe came out willing to sacrifice anything his body had left to give to get the Lakers to the playoffs, but that's just it. After nearly a full season of putting a dysfunctional, chemistry-lacking, injured Lakers team on his back, there was simply nothing left his body could give, and the signs were pretty clear. Kobe hit the floor twice in this game, both times leading viewers to believe his body had finally had enough for the year. Miraculously, but in typical Kobe fashion, he was back up and on his feet after both blows, and we just kind of accepted it, especially after he hit a contested 3 in Harrison Barnes' face. But after dropping 30 plus points for his 35th time that season and clocking 43 minutes for the 16th time, his body had finally had enough for the first time in his career. Sure, he'd broken bones before and sprained ligaments, but this time his body had quit for good. The simplest move in his arsenal caused his Achilles to snap, and just like that, one of the most spirited seasons by any player in history was brought to an abrupt end. After that night, I've long asked myself, what if Kobe wasn't such a warrior? What if he decided to call it quits after he crumbled to the ground the first time? Would Kobe have gone on to play the rest of his career by not staying on the floor to pop the Achilles? And honestly, I think a major injury was coming either way. When you know about the way Kobe worked, the injuries he played through, the limits he would push his body to, and combine it with what you've heard about this season, it's not really a surprise things ended this way. I feel like for the decade plus that we'd been watching Kobe, we were so spoiled by his greatness that we didn't even truly notice what he was doing that season. As a matter of fact, to this day, I don't believe many people have truly appreciated it given the lack of dialogue I've seen about it. But truth be told, that's probably a combination of us being spoiled with the fact that the Achilles tear kind of trumped every other headline that season. Most of us knew immediately that he'd never be the same, so instead of reviewing what we'd seen in that specific season, we started to look at his career as a whole in anticipation that this was finally the end. But hopefully this video sheds some light on what could definitely be considered the best season of Kobe's career. Again, this goes back to it being underrated, because when you put it up against the other years of his career, of course he's had more eye-popping numbers, but when you consider his age, the injuries he'd accumulated by this point, the injuries to the roster, this is definitely one of his better outings, and it makes you wonder how much he truly had left in the tank. What if Kobe wasn't forced to produce like this at age 34? Could he have been productive on a more functional team until like 37 or 38? Well, we'll never know. But what we do know is that Kobe is an absolute outlier when you compare him to other dominant shooting guards at that age. For the age of 34, when you put Kobe's stat line next to Jordan, Drexler, Iverson, Wade, and Jerry West, you can see that nobody really stood above Kobe except Jordan at the shooting guard position. And when you take him out of that box and compare him to all-time greats such as Kareem, Duncan, Magic, Bird, and still Jordan, you can see that overall, he still really is only under Jordan at that age. At age 34, most players' careers are pointing the other way as they start to decline in just about everything. But Kobe's obsession with greatness pushed his body to the absolute limits until he flat out forced it to come to an abrupt stop. You may remember the 2013 season for being a failure and the beginning of the end of an era in Los Angeles, but please from now on also remember it as one of the greatest, most inspired campaigns from an individual player as well. And that's all I got for you guys today. The 2013 season for Kobe, in my opinion, is his most underrated season, and I was happy to do a video for it to try to give it some more recognition. And now I'd like to know down below, what do you think is Kobe Bryant's best season in the NBA? Make sure you leave a comment on the video, definitely leave a like if you enjoyed it, subscribe, and I'll see you guys on the next one. Thanks for watching.